Welcome, Gunrunner.
Hello everybody, Kieran aka Retrolad here. I'm back with another movie review. Now this is one that I've been planning to do for quite a while. I actually did mean to do it ages ago, but for some reason I can't remember. I obviously never got round to it, and now I thought it would be a good time to actually come back to it and do it. The reason for that is because this film is now on Netflix, and I believe it's been put onto some other streaming platforms as well. So anyone with Netflix, whether you're in the UK or the US, you can now go and watch this film, which is great. A lot of people before were moaning that the only way they could see it was through the Xbox site, whether that be on the PC or Xbox. I think you had to have an Xbox Live account to be able to watch it, but now it's there for everyone to see, which is great. And as you've seen from the title, the film we're looking at is Atari Game Over. Now, for those who don't know, this film is specifically about the burial in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and often referred to as the E.T. burial. I don't like referring to it as that because anyone who knows anything about the history of Atari knows that it was a lot more than just a burial of E.T. cards. This burial consisted of returned stock, 40 stock, 40 parts. There was just about everything in there. There was well over 20 different games. There was controllers in there. There was computer parts. There was 5,200 games as well as 2,600 games. I mean, there was titles buried there like, you know, Pac-Man, Defender, Centipede, Yard's Revenge, Star Raiders. There was all sorts of great stuff in there, you know, games-wise. It wasn't just E.T. cartridges. That's a complete myth. There was a lot of different games in there. And if you go and look at any of the pictures online or you watch the movie, you'll see them show all the different games that they found there. They did catalogue them all, and they have put a lot of them up to buy on, you know, on eBay and stuff like that for quite extortionate prices. But I guess you pay for the dirt. Now, this movie really sort of starts off with looking at the myth, and you can see what they've tried to do with this movie is they've tried to play on this long-standing myth that there was this mass burial of E.T. cards because it was the worst game ever, and you know they made billions of them and they couldn't sell them, so they had to bury them in the desert. And it goes through all of that, and the first part is a bit, well, you know, I got a bit bored of the first part because it was all allegedly this, allegedly that, you know, this is the story. They cut to clips of people from various gaming sites going on about how E.T. is the worst game ever, you know, angry video game nerd, people like that. And there's a lot of that at the beginning, and I think it's supposed it's to play up the story and get people sort of thinking about it. And then they do back off the whole, you know, E.T. stuff, and they start to go into the difficulty of doing a project like this, of digging up that desert, you know, knowing where to find them and things like that. And they do speak to some people from Atari who were around at the time, including the guy who actually was in charge of the whole burial. They also speak to Howard Scott Warshaw, who obviously programmed E.T., among other games. And lots of other people who were around at the time and remember the stories and stuff like that. They actually even speak to people from like locals from Alamogordo, including their mayor and stuff like that. So they get a quite wide spectrum of different people interviewed there within the documentary. And really, what it then goes into is it becomes more about Howard Scott Warshaw than it does about E.T. And he kind of actually takes over the movie. And the back part of the movie is very much about Howard's retribution. You know, it's funny that, you know, when people talk about E.T., they don't always mention Howard, and I think that's because Howard did program some incredibly good games. Yard's Revenge is really highly regarded among all 2,600 fans. You know, and you've got Indiana Jones that he did, and you know that was pretty much the first RPG, a proper RPG on a games console. You know, it was groundbreaking, the level of complexity and what he managed to cram into Indiana Jones. And you know, there's a lot of sort of bad feeling from him towards the people who've spread all the rumours about ET and go on about how it's the worst game ever and all these kind of things. And that's because, you know, a lot of people don't seem to well, maybe don't realise or just choose not to focus upon the fact that, you know, Howard did the best he could under the constraints that he had. But he had to program this game in like 6 weeks, when a game usually took 6 months. It was, you know, a ridiculous thing for them to expect him to do. And, you know, I'm, you know, when I think about it, and I think most people would be the same, it's actually amazing that the game turned out as well as it did, considering the time scale that he had. I mean, he could have just thrown together like a Pac-Man clone or something, you know, and he actually went to try to do something different and something new. And I think Howard really does deserve a lot more credit than he's given for E.T. And you say the film very much concentrates on Howard, which you see him on the screen there, and his, you know, him getting closure, I think is the best word, on the whole E.T. burial thing. And it almost becomes actually very, very emotional. It almost brought a tear to my eye, you know, hearing him talk about that, and it almost like the ghost of E.T. being laid to rest, you know. Finally, the story's out there. Finally, people know it wasn't an E.T. burial. It was what people like Marty Goldberg and Kurt Vendela said all along, that it was an Atari burial. It was just stuff from Atari. E.T. was just a part of that. It's not an E.T. burial, and hopefully people will now stop calling it the E.T. burial and stop going on about the wild, fantastical story of it just being E.T. cards. And I'm pleased that Microsoft did commission this movie because, one, it gets rid of this stupid story. Two, it gives closure to Howard. And thirdly, because it is a great watch. And you know, that leads me on to really my last sum up, I suppose, what my overall opinion of it is. I don't want to sit here and sort of go on forever. I'd rather you go watch the movie. Now, for me, I say the first part wasn't so enjoyable because it was, you know, a lot of stuff that I've heard before going on about E.T. worst game ever. But for the back half of the movie, which is Howard's Retribution, it's definitely worth watching. I mean, if you don't know a lot about the E.T. story, you're probably going to love the whole thing. For someone like me who's, you know, knows their history, knows a lot about it already, there's still some great stuff there to watch, and the same mainly the stuff about Howard. And if you know, want to know more about this story, or if you're an Atari fan, or you know, or interested in the history of it all, just I do recommend you go and watch this film. You know, I did enjoy it. It kept me gripped. I wanted to know what was going to happen, and more so I wanted to see what people said at the end, and I wasn't disappointed. So I didn't expect it to be as emotional as it was, so that was another bonus. So to give it a rating, I'm going to give Atari Game Over a solid 8 out of 10. I recommend that you all go and watch it. Hope you enjoyed my short review. I'm going to be back with some more stuff soon. I've been so busy lately, I've found it hard to find time to sit down and do proper videos like this, especially seeing as my house is a madhouse. And there's always people about, and it's nice to be on my own to be able to film something like this. But if you do have any requests, there's anything you want to see, just let me know. I'm going to be kicking on with some of my other stuff. Check out, especially if you're an Atari fan, check out the Atari title screen series that I've been doing. I've been doing some great Spectrum stuff on the channel recently as well, because that seems to always go down really well. So have a look around, and say if you've got any requests, please let me know. Thank you for watching. I've been the Retro Lad. See you all. Bye bye.